The moment my performance ended, the whole auditorium fell silent. Not because I messed up, but because they finally saw me. Even my sister, who'd called me the poor girl just hours earlier, couldn't say a word. I'm Lauren, and for most of my life, I've been the quiet one, the helper, the girl behind the curtain. But that day, I stepped into the light. And something changed. You see, this isn't just a story about music. It's about being overlooked by your own family and finding a way to speak without ever raising your voice. Before we jump into the story, if you don't mind, let me know where you're from by leaving a comment below. That way, I can send a special hello your way. Now go ahead, grab yourself a warm cup of water and find a comfy spot. It's time to begin the story. Some people get welcome banners. I got a clipboard and a folding chair. I had arrived early, on purpose. The Lexington High Auditorium hadn't changed a bit in 10 years. Same scuffed linoleum tiles, same coffee-stained stage curtains, same smell of powdered creamer and old varnish clinging to the air like a memory you can't quite clean out. I hadn't planned on staying long the last time I was here, back when I came to drop off a donation box for the music department. I remember walking in, seeing that cracked floor, and walking right back out. But today I couldn't walk out. I had said yes. I said it quickly and too politely when the PTA email asked for alumni volunteers for backstage support. Emily was listed as the host for the Spring Talent Gala. Of course she was. Margaret Chen's daughter, the face of the family, would be center stage in spotlight and sequins, and I, the other daughter, the practical one, would be somewhere behind a soundboard, probably adjusting mic levels for third graders and chasing down missing props. Mrs. Kersey, the PTA president, spotted me by the doors and handed me a clipboard without a glance. "We're short on programs and tissues. Green room's missing a power strip," she said briskly before moving on to scold a student juggling ribbon batons near a fire extinguisher. I tucked the clipboard under my arm and stepped aside to let a group of middle schoolers pass through. Their chatter filled the space with nervous energy. One of them was holding a glittery ukulele. Another was humming the intro to Let It Go. On the sign-in sheet taped to the wall, I found my name, misspelled as Lorraine Chin. Logistics support. No title, no role, just an afterthought scrawled between snack donations and bathroom monitor. 2 lines above in bold block letters, Emily Chen, event host. A small photo of her smile, blown up and slightly pixelated, was taped beside her name. Her teeth still had that pageant white glow. Mine? I pressed my lips together and quietly uncapped the nearest Sharpie to correct the spelling of my name. I passed the trophy case and felt a sting I hadn't expected. There, in the third panel, Emily's 8th grade plaque still gleamed under the spotlight. Excellence in presentation. I remembered standing right here at 16, kneeling on the floor, taping down mic cords for that exact ceremony. I had told myself I didn't mind missing the show because someday it would be my turn. Instead, I just got better at duct tape and disappearing. By the time I reached the backstage curtains, the house lights had dimmed. Rehearsals were underway. I spotted Emily already on stage, radiating charm in a soft pink pantsuit. Her voice cut through the room like melted sugar. "Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Can y'all hear me?" She gave a playful wave to our mother, seated in the front row, who raised her phone to snap a picture. Emily leaned toward the mic again. "Lauren's helping backstage. Love that for her." There was a smattering of polite chuckles. I felt my neck heat, but I smiled tightly and focused on adjusting the program schedule in my hand. Then I heard it. My mother's voice, clearly meant to carry. She's always been the more practical one, not one for the spotlight, bless her heart. The woman beside her murmured something and Mom gave a knowing laugh. But she's dependable. Every event needs a good support person. Nobody turned to look at me. No gasps, just soft laughter, the kind people offer when they think it's harmless. I didn't flinch, though. My hands stayed still, my spine straight. I had learned that trick years ago, how to stay still enough that no one notices the shaking underneath. I made my way to the tech table where someone had tossed a stack of printed programs, already dog-eared and slightly curled at the edges. One volunteer, some sophomore I didn't recognize, looked up. "Extras," she said, handing one to me. I flipped it open. Emily's photo took up the entire front panel. Her bio described her as an alumna, mentor, and beloved local personality. There was even a quote from the principal underneath. "She's what Lexington High represents at its best." I kept turning pages. I had to get to the end before I found myself. Back page, 8-point font. Additional logistics support. Lauren Chen. No photo, no quote, just that. I closed the program and slid it into my coat pocket. Somewhere behind the curtain, a child sneezed, and a flurry of movement followed. Teachers adjusting lights, parents digging for tissues, a kid dropping a baton. I moved on autopilot, directing a small group of kids toward the side stage and fixing a twist tie on a props bin. Emily passed by at one point, offering a quick, "Thanks, sis," as if I'd just handed her a coffee instead of 3 hours of unpaid labor. I didn't reply. She was already waving to someone else. And then, just as I reached for a mic pack resting on a storage shelf, I saw it, tucked against the wall, behind a stack of folding chairs and tangled extension cords. My old violin case, still taped shut at the corners, still covered in that faint layer of dust that says, "Forgotten, not stored." My fingers hovered near the handle. I hadn't touched it in a decade. Not since the last time I stood on this very stage and played my own arrangement for an audience that forgot I existed the moment the lights faded. A breath caught in my throat. For a second, I felt 16 again. The girl who had stayed late to untangle cables, who watched her sister get standing ovations and went home with calluses. I stepped back. The noise of the auditorium returned all at once. Footsteps, mic feedback, chatter from the lobby. I turned away from the case, pressing the clipboard against my chest like armor. There was still work to be done, but something inside me shifted. Just a little. Not loud, not obvious, but real. They say seating charts tell you everything. Mine said, "Stay out of the pictures." Emily's engagement party was held at a vineyard estate in Napa Valley, all golden hour vines and curated perfection. Everything looked like it had been ripped from a lifestyle blog. Flower arches in muted blush, linen napkins tied with sprigs of lavender, and signature cocktails named after inside jokes that didn't include me. I pulled into the gravel lot 30 minutes early, not because I was eager, but because I'd driven slower than usual and still arrived ahead of schedule. The air was warm and smelled faintly of rosemary and wealth. I took a deep breath, smoothed the front of my dress, black silk, practical but flattering, and walked toward the welcome table. "Name?" the clipboard girl asked, not looking up. "Lauren Chen." She scanned the list, then pointed. "Your card should be on the side table. Group B." I crossed the lawn, weaving past white tents and perfect teeth. Every table had a view of the hills, the couple, the sunset, except mine. Mine was tucked beside the catering station, near the swinging door where trays of shrimp skewers and lukewarm sliders emerged in intervals. My place card read, "Lauren Chen, +1 if real." The +1 was scratched in with a fine-tip pen and unnecessary flair. I stared at it longer than I should have. No one noticed. They were too busy laughing under fairy lights and posing with champagne. I sat down quietly and folded the card in half. The chair wobbled slightly on the brick pavers. I adjusted it with the toe of my heel, then straightened my posture, pretending not to hear the clink of glasses from the garden tables. Each table had pastel centerpieces and tiny dessert menus with calligraphy. Mine had a sweating bottle of Pellegrino and a stack of napkins. Aunt Lydia was the first to approach. She wore a beige jumpsuit, oversized pearls, and the kind of lipstick that left imprints on cheeks no one asked to be kissed. "Well, well," she drawled, leaning over my table with a condescending smile. "Still no +1, huh?" I forced a smile. "Just me tonight." "Some of us are just independent," she offered, like it was wisdom and not dismissal. "Emily's always been a magnet. Remember her high school dance team? Boys lined up for photos." She glanced over her shoulder. That fiancé of hers? A catch. I looked at my untouched napkin stack and nodded. Yep. A magnet mom appeared next, gliding between tables with her vintage rosé bottle like a gracious hostess. She filled glasses as she passed. Cousins, second cousins, even one of Emily's college friends whose name she always forgot. When she reached my table, she paused. "Oh, you're still driving, right?" she said brightly. "Here." She twisted the Pellegrino cap and poured it into my glass, half flat from the heat. She didn't wait for a response. I held the glass carefully, watching the bubbles fade. Around me, laughter swelled as the photographer announced, "Golden light is peaking." Everyone scrambled for the perfect shot. I didn't move. I already knew I wouldn't be in the album. "Are you still playing?" "I miss your sound. You made music feel safe." Just one sentence, no punctuation besides the period at the end, but something in it cracked through the quiet. I didn't respond right away. I stared at the message until the car's dome light timed out and I was left in darkness. Then slowly, I leaned my head back against the seat and let the silence wrap around me. Not heavy this time, just still. I didn't have a +1 tonight, but maybe, just maybe, I hadn't been completely alone. The mayor's niece dropped out last minute. I didn't volunteer, I just sent a 6-minute reminder that I used to matter. The backstage hallway smelled like powdered donuts and electrical tape. At 10:42 a.m., 2 hours before the Spring Talent Gala officially began, the energy had already tipped into chaos. Headset static crackled through the volunteer line. A kid dressed as a bumblebee paced in tight circles, muttering a tongue twister. Someone knocked over a mic stand. Nobody noticed. Everyone was too busy adjusting schedules and chasing lighting cues. I stood by the tech table, tapping on my laptop. My name was still spelled wrong on the crew badge. Lauren Chen, with an extra E scribbled in marker. Logistics support. Not music coordinator, not former performer, just support. Elena had texted 20 minutes ago. "I'm sick. So sorry, flu or something. I don't want to get anyone sick." No emojis, just that careful guilt only students carry when they disappoint someone they respect. I stared at her message, thumb hovering. Then I opened my Dropbox folder. Buried inside was a video I hadn't watched in years, a solo recital at 21, the last time I'd performed for an audience that didn't clap out of obligation. Black dress, dim spotlight, a piece I had composed myself. My professor called it precise with emotional restraint. My mom RSVP'd yes, but skipped it last minute. Emily has a dress fitting. Can't make it. Record it? I had, and I'd watched it alone the following week, laptop on my lap sitting on the floor of my studio apartment. Now I selected the file titled Lauren Chen Recital Final V2.move. I renamed it Alt Submission-7B if needed. No signature, no explanation. I attached it to an email and typed the school's backup event account in the to field. Then I paused. For a second, I thought about deleting it, about playing it safe. But something in me, older than resentment, quieter than pride, clicked send. I had just closed the laptop when I heard her voice. "Hey," Emily drawled, entering with a cardboard tray of Starbucks cups and a ring light already plugged into a portable charger. "Showtime vibes." She spotted me and beamed. "You and that 7th grader should totally do a duet next year. Small town, big heart, right?" I blinked. "Elena's out sick." "Oh no," she said too brightly. Sad for her. She would have been earnest. She didn't ask what would go in slot 7B now. She probably assumed I'd just pull a rabbit out of a clipboard. The morning unraveled quickly. Costumes zipped. Mic packs adjusted. Mrs. Kersey barked logistics into her headset like a flight controller. Kids rotated through hair gel and nerves. Every so often I caught a glimpse of the audience arriving. Parents in cardigans, grandparents balancing foam coffee cups, toddlers clutching juice boxes. The hum of chatter built steadily as showtime neared. Emily's voice rang over the PA system as the MC, polished, over-enunciated, just a hint of, "I've taken improv." Her script was typed in 16-point font, clipped to a pastel binder with her initials on the front. Act after act passed, tap dancers. A spoken-word poet who forgot his lines halfway through and just stood blinking until the crowd clapped him off. A magician who fumbled the deck and turned it into a comedy bit. Parents clapped after everything, because that's what parents do. Then the moment came. Emily's voice paused. A paper shuffle. A throat clear. "Due to a last-minute change," she announced, "please enjoy this special video submission in place of Act 7B. The lights dimmed. A hush settled. Not forced, not dramatic, just expectant. The projector flickered to life. There I was, 10 years younger, posture straighter, hair pulled back, bow in hand. I stood center stage in that tiny college recital hall, eyes closed, breath steady, and then one note, clean, thin, felt. It rose like silk through the auditorium, clear and unwavering. No one coughed, no candy wrappers crinkled. The usual restlessness of PTA gatherings vanished, replaced by something I hadn't heard from that room in years, stillness. The camera zoomed slowly as the piece unfolded, no flashy movements, no showboating, just technique, precision, intent. Mr. Raines, the guest judge and Broadway composer, leaned forward in his seat, elbows on knees, one hand at his chin. He didn't speak. He just watched. Emily took the mic just as the string quartet finished an instrumental version of Billie Eilish's Ocean Eyes. Her smile was radiant, teeth bright enough to rival the chandeliers. She stood on the patio steps, her fiancé at her side, his hand resting casually on the small of her back. "Hi, everyone," she chirped. "Thank you for being here to celebrate with us. This has been a dream, truly." She squeezed his arm, then continued, "And tonight wouldn't be complete without a little music. So, I thought, why not embarrass myself with a song?" The crowd laughed appreciatively. She sang something soft, acoustic, emotional enough for the setting, though clearly rehearsed. When she hit the last note, she glanced my way. "And to my sister," she said, "who's always had my back. Literally, like helping with setup, printing things, all the stuff I'd be a mess without. You're the best." The crowd applauded. My mother clapped delicately. I nodded once and raised my glass. Nobody clinked. They were already toasting to something else. Someone else. I took a sip of warm Pellegrino and let the bubbles settle in my chest before exhaling through my nose. At some point, I wandered off to the edge of the lawn. From a distance, I watched Emily float between tables, effortless and beloved. Her fiancé laughed at every joke she told. Our mother looked at her like a prize she'd kept in mint condition. Aunt Lydia cornered the photographer and requested a family photo. "Just the stars tonight," she said, gesturing to Emily and her fiancé. I wasn't asked to join. I didn't cry, though. I thought I might, but I didn't. I'd long since stopped expecting to be centered in any frame. Later that night, back in my rental car, I sat for a long while before turning the engine. The overhead light buzzed faintly. I pulled my phone from my bag, mostly to check for directions back to the hotel. One notification waited at the top of the screen, a name I hadn't seen in a while. Elena L. I didn't move from my spot backstage, behind the heavy curtain, but I saw everything. Parents shifting in their seats, the hum of whispering. "That's her?" someone murmured. "She's incredible." I felt the warmth creep up my neck. Not embarrassment, not pride, just presence. They didn't know it was me, but they felt it. When the video ended, I didn't wait for applause. I turned on my heel and walked back toward the utility hallway, the clipboard firm in my grip. That's when I heard it, heels clicking hard against the floor. "Who submitted that?" Emily barked. "That wasn't cleared. Did Kersey approve it?" I kept walking. She caught up beside me, cheeks flushed, voice sharp in that way she saved for things that didn't orbit around her. "Lauren?" I didn't answer. I just held the clipboard tighter and kept moving. Sometimes silence speaks louder than any finale. They didn't confront me in person. They uploaded a video and let Facebook do the rest. My apartment was still dark when I woke up. curtains drawn, coffee cold on the nightstand, and my phone face down like it was hiding something. I turned it over and saw the glow. 143 unread notifications, 3 missed calls, 2 voicemails, group chat tags from numbers I hadn't saved in years. At the top of my feed sat a video titled, "Our Daughter's Distress, Please Watch Before Judging." It was posted from my mother's verified account. I hit play. The opening shot was me backstage at the talent show, eyes down, arms folded, trying not to cry. The caption, "She's been through so much. We just want her safe." My voice never entered the video, but my silence echoed in every frame. Clips played out of order. Me wiping my eyes, me holding my breath, me stepping aside as Emily walked past. There was even a freeze frame of me watching the stage, edited in slow motion, with the music lowered to a somber piano track. The words, "We love her deeply, but sometimes love isn't enough," faded onto the screen. My pulse pounded in my ears. The comments section was a carnival of assumptions. "She looks unstable." I always wondered what happened to her. "Emily's doing everything she can. Some people can't be saved." My Sunday school teacher had left a sad face emoji and the words, "Such a shame." I prayed for her to grow into grace. Aunt Darlene reposted it with, "We all knew something was off." Guess we were right. My cousin Eleanor commented, "Heartbreaking. Some people just need more help than others." I sat there, half blanket over my legs, trying to remember how to breathe. I thought about the time I chipped my tooth on the playground slide in 3rd grade. Mom didn't take me to the dentist until the following week. "It builds grit," she said. That was her version of love, quiet, selective, and hard to prove. Then came the email from Dr. Elise Reeves. Subject, temporary hold on grant processing. Dear Lauren, it has come to our attention that there is confusion surrounding the media release form submitted alongside your application. While we review this matter, your grant has been placed on hold. We understand this may be distressing. Please know we are working to resolve it swiftly. Best, Dr. Elise Reeves, Bellamy Foundation. I reread it 4 times, each time feeling a different kind of sick. The grant wasn't just a shot at recognition. It was my plan, my pivot, my proof that I wasn't who they painted me to be. My phone buzzed again. It was a message from Isaac, the tech lead from the talent show. "They clipped you. Here's the original, uncut. Don't let them gaslight you." Attached was the raw video file. I opened it. There I was, poised, focused, strong. The same performance, but without the edits that made me look fragile. There was no trembling, just art. I clicked into the Bellamy portal, heart racing, and found the submission documents. One PDF stood out, a scanned media release form with my full name typed neatly across the top. Below that, 2 signatures, Margaret Chen and Daniel Chen, my parents. I hadn't submitted that form. My breath caught. My fingers felt stiff as I opened the file properties and clicked into the metadata. There it was, the smoking gun. Upload origin, Hollinghurst guest. Timestamp, Tuesday, 3:12 p.m. They did this. They used the Wi-Fi at their house, my old Wi-Fi, the one Mom always said she never bothered to change. "We don't lock doors in this family," she used to say. "We trust." I leaned back in my chair and the old upholstery creaked beneath me. The room suddenly felt smaller, tighter, like the walls were listening. I stared at the framed photo on my shelf, a grainy print of me playing violin at the VA hospital. No one in my family ever asked for a copy. That day, I'd worn the same navy dress they said made me blend into the wall. This wasn't just a PR stunt. It was strategic. A forged signature, a narrative push, a door slammed shut before I could walk through, and yet, I wasn't panicking anymore. I closed the tabs. I opened a fresh document. Then, like a whisper to no one but myself, I said, "You wanted a paper trail. Fine." I started to type. It wasn't a courtroom, but it smelled like judgment and lukewarm coffee. The HOA clubhouse had been repurposed with a kind of rigid politeness. Rows of beige folding chairs stretched across the carpet. A long plastic table stood at the front, draped in a polyester tablecloth that refused to lie flat. There was a tray of cookies no one had touched. Someone had brewed coffee in the corner, but it had gone stale by the time the projector warmed up. I arrived 15 minutes early wearing a slate gray blouse and black flats, quiet clothes. Not because I wanted to disappear, but because I didn't want anything loud getting in the way of what I came to do. Margaret, my mother, was already seated 2 rows from the front, flanked by 2 board members she always called by first name in emails, but never invited to dinner. She was in her wine-colored wrap dress, the one she used to wear when she needed to be taken seriously. Emily sat beside her, scrolling through her phone like none of this was worth the battery drain. She looked up just long enough to meet my eyes. Her mouth didn't move, but the message was clear. This is beneath us. The chairperson, Mr. Donnelly, tapped the mic twice. The sound popped across the room like a cheap firework. "Thank you for coming," he began. "Tonight's meeting addresses allegations of improper media usage and personal defamation within our community digital platforms." Nobody coughed. Nobody whispered. He gestured to the tech assistant who dimmed the lights and hit play. The same video I'd woken up to weeks ago lit up the projector screen. Our daughter's distress. My face froze on frame, eyes glassy, jaw clenched. Piano music layered under carefully edited footage. The captions, fragile, distant, loved anyway, were dripped with sanctimony. I didn't flinch this time. I'd seen it too many times to react. When the video ended, Donnelly cleared his throat. This video was posted from a verified account linked to Ms. Margaret Chen. There have been concerns raised about its origin and intent. He clicked to the next slide. A screenshot of the file properties filled the screen. Upload date, March 12, 2024. IP origin, Hollinghurst Guest Network, registered to the Chen household. Margaret stood. "That network is used by everyone in the house," she said, her voice calm but lined with indignation. "The video was never intended for public scrutiny. It was a family matter. My daughter has been going through a difficult phase." She glanced at me, then folded her hands, as if to say, "I've tried my best." "She's fragile," she added. "This isn't about reputation, it's about care." A few heads nodded, but not all. I stepped forward then, quietly, manila envelope in hand. My palms weren't sweating, my voice didn't shake. If anything, I felt colder than the room allowed. "I'd like to present evidence," I said, placing the envelope on the table and opening it calmly. First, I laid out the original video, the one Isaac had recovered for me, untouched, full color, unedited, then a copy of the property deed, notarized in my full name, Lauren Elise Chen. No ambiguity. Next, a printed audit log of the release form submission, with timestamps and upload metadata tracing the forgery to my family's home IP. And finally, a cease and desist letter, signed by my attorney and timestamped the day after the video went viral. "These documents confirm the release form was not submitted by me," I said, "that my likeness was used without my consent, that what was framed as concern was actually defamation, and that the source of it was not accidental." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just stood there, facts laid out like instruments before a solo. Donnelly nodded slowly, then turned to the room. "We will now take a vote on the suspension of Ms. Margaret Chen's community board privileges, pending further review." Hands rose, some fast, some with hesitation, but enough, more than half. Margaret sat frozen, her jaw tight, her eyes blinking rapidly as if the math wasn't adding up. Beside her, Kaya, Emily's friend and unofficial PR whisperer, muttered under her breath, "She just wanted attention." A voice cut through. "She wanted dignity," said Mrs. Green, the neighbor who used to give me peppermint sticks every December. And we failed her. The silence after that was heavier than anything I could have delivered myself. I packed the envelope, turned, and walked out slowly. The hallway was cool compared to the heat of the room. I paused near the vending machine just long enough to catch my breath. That's when I heard it. "She always wanted to be the star," Margaret said behind me. Her voice wasn't angry. It was sweet, the kind of sweetness you'd add to tea to hide something bitter. Now she's the scandal. I didn't look back. I didn't need to, because for the first time in years, I wasn't chasing clarity. I had it. The auditorium looked smaller than I remembered, maybe because I wasn't taping down chords or reading someone else's name off a program, maybe because this time the banner overhead spelled mine correctly, the Lauren Chen Youth Art Scholarship dedication. There was no confetti, no fanfare, just a quiet buzz of folding chairs being arranged, Isaac checking camera angles, and someone balancing a tray of lemonade cups near the entrance. But it was enough, more than enough. Earlier that morning, I'd taken a detour on my way here, down past the old park, past the creek bed that dried out every July, to the place where my grandfather used to take me on days when the house got too loud. The weeping willow still stood, older now, maybe more brittle around the base, but still holding its shape. I remembered the way he once tapped the underside of the bench, whispering, "If the world gets too loud, find where it's quiet." I never knew he meant more than shade, but there it was, tucked beneath the slats in a waterproof tin, just where he'd said it might be someday. A letter. Ink faded just slightly, written in that upright, deliberate way he always signed checks and birthday cards. It read, "My girl, if you're reading this, then you made it here on your own 2 feet. Not in spite of them, but without them. You'll know who I mean. I set up something quiet for you, not because you needed it to be loud, but because you needed it to be yours. No permission, no strings. If they called you fragile, they didn't know what strength sounds like when it doesn't yell. I believe in your hands, your heart, your pace. Love, Pop." Behind it, a notarized copy of a silent trust, set to mature when certain conditions were met: independent residence, self-generated income, no family signatures required. It wasn't about the money, it was about what it proved. By noon, that trust had become the seed for something bigger. I didn't name it after him. He would have hated the attention. I named it after the version of me that kept going even when nobody clapped. At the dedication ceremony, Mrs. Green sat near the front with 2 of her grandkids, hands folded politely in her lap. A few familiar faces dotted the crowd: Elena with her mother, the middle school art teacher from the next district over, and a couple of those HOA board members who no longer avoided my gaze. I stepped onto the stage without a script. "Some people measure success in applause," I said. Maybe I used to, but what I learned is that silence, deep, whole silence, can carry you too. It gives you space to remember who you are when no one's handing you a name tag. A pause. Not dramatic, just enough to breathe. I may have been poor in approval, poor in praise, but I wasn't poor in resilience. That was mine the whole time. The applause came slowly, respectfully. Not a standing ovation, but no one was looking through me either. It was the kind that tells you people weren't just clapping. They were listening. Afterward, Isaac offered a smile and a nod from behind the camera. No words. We'd said everything in glances over the last few weeks. He knew this wasn't a finale, just a reset. Outside, the air was soft with early summer warmth. As I walked down the concrete steps, I saw him, my father. Not part of the event, not even in the crowd, just standing there off to the side under a sycamore tree, hands in his jacket pockets. He looked older than the last time I saw him, eyes dimmer, jaw clenched, like he was holding back a speech he hadn't been invited to give. He opened his mouth slightly, but no sound came. I didn't stop. I didn't quicken my pace either. I nodded once, calmly, not in anger, just enough to say, "I see you." Then I walked past him and kept going. At the car, my phone buzzed. A new message, unknown sender. "Saw your video." Would you mentor a young artist for our new Spotlight series? You have something we can't teach." I stared at the screen for a long moment, not because I needed the invitation, but because it didn't feel like a door opening. It felt like one I'd built myself. I didn't respond. Not yet. I'd learned not to rush the next note. Sometimes what they call quiet is just the sound of someone finally stepping into their own rhythm. And that, finally, was a sound I recognized. Sometimes the quietest victories don't come with applause. They arrive when you no longer need it. Standing beneath that banner with my name on it, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt whole. In life, not all healing comes from fixing what's broken with others. Sometimes it begins when we stop waiting for recognition and start honoring our own worth. Family doesn't always mean being understood, but peace often starts when we stop proving and start becoming. If this story touched something in you, perhaps a moment you've lived or still carry, I hope you'll share your thoughts. You never know who else might be waiting for a quiet kind of courage to speak first.